We are live. This is the market update. This is the crypto comeback market update. I am your host, Bill Noble. If you've been sort of nuked and you need help, well, you are in the right place, because I am going to explain to you what happened, why it happened, and what's going to happen next. Fantastic, right? Now, what happened? Simply, the entire crypto ecosystem got long with leverage. Big players used the crypto derivatives market to have hedges on their positions. And then what happened was exchange mechanisms stopped working as mass liquidations occurred. So whether you were long or whether you were short, you got liquidated, right? They just gave the winners their money, and, they took the money from the losers, and the exchange mechanisms just cleared the board, resulting in epic panic. Epic panic. Okay. So once everybody has been liquidated, what's left to do? In other words, they liquidated the entire crypto ecosystem. And even though it didn't work for a couple of hours, the crypto ecosystem is still here. It's still here, which in itself is amazing. Even though I know people's debt bags are down like 80, 90%. And, if you were in lower quality stuff and hoping, you got hurt. Now, the privacy narrative continues to smoke higher, transitioning to good news. The AIntivirus team has announced that they're coming out with a privacy-backed, over-collateralized stablecoin, its own privacy blockchain that will be airdropped to antivirus holders. An absolute privacy revolution is going on with the Zcash price action. People haven't figured it out yet. In AIntivirus, you have small fries running for the hills a little bit. The point is, the privacy narrative with Zcash up 15% and a whole lot of privacy innovation going on across the market. You have a recipe. Are you ready? You have a recipe for alt season. That's right. I just said that. How does alt season happen? A guy named Don Alt, fittingly, a guy who's been here and done that, trust me, for multiple cycles. This is what he says. This is the tweet. He goes, this is how alt season used to start. You have a huge nuke, right? You fully retrace the nuke, and then it's full send. It's a bit much to bet on alt season right now, but if we get full retraces, especially on BTC pairs, I would get quite excited. So think about it for a second. Think about it. What happens if you get a V bottom? Normally in stocks, you get rounding tops and V bottoms. A V bottom is simply straight down, hang out, have some indigestion, straight back up again. And whatever is smoking out of the gate, like your Zcashes and stuff like that, Zcash is leading the rest of the market. And then you had price action in things like, Sui, Polkadot, just absolutely wrecked. Now, if you want to know details about like what's next, you want to get your finger on the pulse of the market, the YouTube member podcast is coming up after this. But make no mistake, if you have this market turn around and go higher, not just go higher, but retrace a lot of what's happening, particularly if the market trades terrible for 1 or 2 days for fear of whatever's going to happen on Sunday night, right? Everyone's like, ooh, Sunday night stocks, they're talking about $150 billion of forced liquidation today or Monday. Stonks may have to get real, but all the money that comes out of stonks undoubtedly winds up in Bitcoin or Ethereum. I mean, Ethereum hanging in there at 3,800, considering that Ethereum is the collateral that everybody puts up when the margin babies make their bets. The fact that ETH is holding it together is amazing. Amazing. The amount, Binance, the amount of ETH summarily dumped into the market. ETH at 3,800. Honestly, that feels like Christmas. Polkadot back at $3. A lot of this stuff is like a reset back to where it was at the start of the year, right? XRP was down 40% at one point yesterday. So you have a big cap crypto down 40%. And then one big cap crypto, Zcash, which again is this privacy narrative. And we'll talk a little bit about that. This privacy narrative just continues to be, it's like up only. Up only. And what's that about? Well, you could have capital flight out of somewhere. You could have a problem in China, a problem in Europe, a problem in Japan, a problem in fill in the blank, and somebody is trying to quietly get out using these coins, Dash, Zcash. It's either that or we're finally realizing that, like what McAfee told you years and years and years ago, there's only one type of cryptocurrency that's ever going to make it, and that's going to be a privacy coin, because you're not going to want the whole world to know what you're doing. It's that simple. So if that realization is upon us, you have the potential for a market leadership group, which could lead all of this out of the abyss. All of it. Now, if you think about what people are saying about why the market is down, people are trying to tell you that it's the trade war. Let me ask you something about the trade war. Did it pay to sell Bitcoin at 77K the last time they had this trade problem? The last time they had it. Bitcoin was at 77K. They dropped the S&P like 25%. And all S&P did after it was over was go up. It was literally up only once fear, greed in stocks went to zero. Zero. Like nobody was bullish stocks at the bottom of the original tariff tantrum, and everyone has already forgotten that. Now, in crypto, I don't know if bullish sentiment went to zero. Everyone's positions went to zero, sadly. I mean, at the low print, everybody's bags were down between 40 and 80%. Just, mass capital destruction. It was a capital destruction, a P&L destruction event. They say it's a black swan. That's about as close to a black swan as you get. On the other hand, that might be a little bit over dramatic. Now, of course, it's dramatic if it's affecting your P&L. I understand that. But this happens all the time in commodities. Cattle, soybeans, right? Oil, metals, copper, all this stuff, like back in the day when all that was like very illiquid and wild, like crypto. Oh my God. You would get everybody leaning the same way. Like, oh my God, it's a drought. And then you walk outside, it's a torrential rainstorm affecting all these ag futures. And you're listening to me and you're like, dude, what are you talking about? These margin washouts where people get massively over leveraged or massively the same way and over leveraged, it doesn't take much. Like when you have crypto, all the macro heads were weighing in yesterday. It's very simple. When you have fear about economic growth, when you have shock in the system, the first thing that gets monkey hammered is leverage. And where is all the leverage? Where's all the fast money? Crypto, right? So if you have a shock that scares everybody, the first thing that gets wrecked is the thing that has all the leverage, the fastest moving levered thing, which is crypto. That's it. No change in the crypto market. Everyone's trying to, it's a bear market. No, it's not. No, it's not. It absolutely is not a bear market. You know, a bear market, like, you know, goes down and bleeds and bleeds and bleeds, and then it bounces and then it goes down again. And, you know, you get these hope rallies. What hope rally? There's no hope rally. I mean, you have a little rally going on now, and you really don't want to see, a rally fail badly, but that doesn't mean they couldn't scare you in 3 days again. It doesn't mean it's not easy, but it still feels like a V bottom, right? Because that's how things go after you've washed everyone out. You burn down the entire bullish forest, right? And there's nothing left but like topsoil that everything just grows out of again. Daniel J., happy Columbus Day, bro. Nice to see him bringing back that holiday for the Italians. It's unbelievable how people will take a narrative and create a narrative around price action. Like the narrative isn't there. The bearish narrative is not there. And when I say P&L destruction, I think everyone lost yesterday. I think the shorts lost. People who thought they were hedged weren't. That's part of what fueled the panic, right? In other words, people are like, well, I have derivatives on, I'm protected. Sorry, no, you don't. Everyone's liquidated. Sorry. Great trade. You have your money, but you're not protected. And I'm going to tell you something else too, while I'm just throwing out random nuggets. The big guys knew this was going down. Let's start at the beginning. First, Ray Dalio comes out and says you should have 15% of your portfolio in gold. It's a little late for that, don't you think, Ray? That was what I thought. I was like, wow, I mean, what are you trying to do? You know, I mean, maybe he's playing for a gold parabolic, or maybe he's looking for exit liquidity. But in retrospect, he knew. Both Michael Saylor and Metaplanet stopped buying. That's because they got a phone call from a hedge fund like Galaxy Digital or somebody with real geopolitical intelligence and told these guys, hold off. Don't do anything at 120. They knew. Jamie Dimon was on the tape talking about the possibility of a stock market crash. Very unusual for the head of an investment bank to come out and actually say, I'm worried about a stock market crash. It's actually like warning his customer base about what might transpire here. They knew. They knew. They all did. All the big guys knew. And I'm kicking myself for not seeing it. Now, of course, as I noted yesterday, there were those hints, and then Treasury Secretary Bessent came out the day before this went down and said, we're at the ready for any instability in the financial system, and we'll do whatever it takes to make sure markets are orderly. And I was assuming that's because there was a looming problem in Japan. Now, here's what's probably going to happen, which is how you get the V bottom in crypto. So they've made quite the mess. I don't know that they thought this was going to be quite as bad as it was, particularly in crypto. But my guess is they're not going to be proud of the overreaction. And they're going to be trying to walk back the nasty rhetoric kind of as soon as possible. because remember, the orange man is massively long crypto. So if he wants to see his net worth change and he wants to have the confidence of the industry, they'll say or do something on Sunday night to guarantee that it's not a mess, which currently is not on the minds of people in crypto. In other words, this is really embarrassing. You know, the Chinese kind of punched them upside the head. They're going to have to figure out how to, like, you know, save face throughout all this. So one guy I was reading, and he's actually pretty smart. He's like, you know what? I don't think Sunday night's going to be a disaster. That's interesting, right? Like today, I was like, oh my God, Sunday night. You know, that's why everybody was heaving it. That's why everybody was like, get out at any price. You had these wicks. They were all afraid of what was going to happen on Sunday. And I'm like, wait a minute. First, everyone was levered and long. So everyone is levered and long. Then everyone gets out in fear of Sunday. So first there was no fear, and now there's fear of Sunday. And what happens if, I don't know, by Sunday or Tuesday, you know, just give it a day or two, nothing happens. The market's shopping around in a range. Every time the market lurches down, everyone's going to go, huh? It's called the knife experience, right? Every time it goes down from here on out, everyone's going to freak out. Like, oh my God, it's going to go to zero again. Just like the whole yen carry trade thing from 2024. I'm not even going to bother explaining it to you. But the simple fact of the matter is they scared everyone out of the market. They made you afraid of what happens in the future. And what's interesting is the fact that all these guys had the heads up means it's political theater. In other words, if no one knew about it, it would be a black swan. But if guys all had the heads up and then they lean on the system to the point where it breaks, somebody took all that ETH from Binance. And somebody is after these privacy coins because that means there's capital flight from somewhere. And then I'll give you number 3. I'll give you the buy signal, right? Everyone wants to know, when should I buy? So you can't have a move like this without somebody blowing up. You can't. Like when you have 40 to 80% moves in one day, somebody blew up. Some hedge fund, some exchange, somebody blew up. Guaranteed. Now, the buy signal, as soon as you find out who blew up, it goes straight up. Or you find out what the problem actually was. Because again, these privacy coins, Tornado Cash, Tornado Cash. The only privacy project that has not moved is the one attached to the guy who pretty much put privacy on the map. And they just released something called Matrix, which is just radical. It's going to be a privacy blockchain with a privacy coin and the ability to create a private stable coin. So in some ways, the market is picking up on Zcash and Monero and the big privacy projects, but it's not picking up on the small ones. It's not picking up on the technology part of crypto because, they're all of a sudden going to have a little bit of problem in legacy because the whole semiconductor chip thing is now up in the air as all the parts and things from China wind up in the tariff war. Going to be a little bit of an interesting pickle they got going on in stonks. Meanwhile, the tech part of crypto has been destroyed. We're going to be discussing, picks, and we're going to do Crypto Showdown coming up next in the YouTube member area. Right? We're going to basically take 3 or 4 layer ones or 3 or 4 oracles or 3 or 4 cloud software plays. And we're going to say, hey, which one do you like? Because if this thing turns around, if Don Alt is right, that this goes nuke and then turns around and retraces the nuke in a matter of days, everyone's out. The only difference, if they retrace it all, is before everyone was levered long, they go down, it comes back. Now you're at the same level and no one is long. No one is in. No one has any leverage on. No one. Literally, no one. I mean, all you take, retail buyers could probably take this thing back up over the weekend. That's probably how thin it is. Because if everybody just sold, who's the seller? That's the fact about the whatever it is, the $19 billion liquidation. Okay, $19 billion has been liquidated. And what happens if you walk in tomorrow and somebody goes, I want to buy $19 billion worth of crypto? Sorry, we don't have it. No seller. Galaxy Digital, Binance, Kraken, BlackRock. Oh my God, those guys were taking down everything. Everything. Like we're talking about a generational low. We were talking about the biggest rally in the history of crypto. And what they did was they cleansed everybody. They gave the market an enema prior to that happening, which is why in like the roadmaps, like I just published a new roadmap for Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, XRP. I gave that to everybody in Patreon just because I know people are just so hosed and so hurt. I want people to be like, okay. And that roadmap was unbelievable. And the Zcash roadmap is also in Patreon, which is working. All I know is as an analyst, thank God I embraced Zcash maximalism before this happened. Oh my God. If I was over my skis on Ski Mask Dog or some meme coin before this thing got smoked, thank God I was on the market leader. Been a Zcash fan back when it was very easy to make fun of me for being a Zcash fan. Market leadership matters. And the fact that you've had a complete cleanse, and then you find out who blew up, or you find out what the actual problem was, even if it's not that big of a deal. I can't believe it's not that big of a deal, but once you find out what happened, or once you find out who blew up, kind of like FTX, right? Once you found out what was going on, the next trade was BlackRock doing the Bitcoin ETF. Now, that took 6 months to develop. I don't think this is going to take 6 months to develop because you literally just liquidated everybody into, like the whale, the whale coming out of the ocean and swallowing up all the little shrimp. Yeah, that's exactly what happened. That is exactly what happened. Arthur Hayes had, a very simple theory, right? That you had so much leverage in the system, Word on the street is that big centralized exchanges, automatic liquidation of collateral tied to cross margin positions. Sounds like double leverage to me. Is why lots of alts got smoked on the move down. Congrats to you stink bitters. We won't be seeing those levels anytime soon on many high quality alts. And he's correct, right? I mean, he's basically saying people got hyper levered. I don't know what cross margin means. I have to probably perplexity that. It's just over leverage. It's just a margin. In stonks, they call it a margin call. Just, call everyone out. Done. That's it. There doesn't have to be some huge story attached to it, particularly since the market leadership is intact. You have market leadership and you have innovation in antivirus. That's unbelievable. That's absolutely unbelievable. Like, what is going on in privacy? Monero, all these coins that were a joke, they're all up 10% today, right? Zcash up 20%. Zcash was below 200 for like 5 minutes, half an hour, 269. Tornado Cash up 10%. Dash bid after wicking down to 28, now at 40. And even Bitcoin at 112. Everyone's year-end target was 250. If you liked it at 124, you had to love it at 110. And the same thing with ETH, right? I mean, Tom Lee is on the tape going, we're about to have possibly one of the biggest moves in the history of crypto. That's still all intact. That's absolutely intact. The only difference is the collateral from the levered people is now in the hands of people who are not selling it. And the equities guys are coming in on Monday with both hands to buy the Ethereum ETF, which of course has not occurred to anybody. And if you were going to put all these altcoins into ETFs, which was the talk 2 days ago, anybody, any institution involved in that process is going to walk in on Monday morning and see this stuff still down maybe 10 or 15 or 20% from where it was when it started. And they're just going to be like, yeah, I'll take all of that. I'll take all of it. And we're going to sit here as crypto heads being like, is it safe to go back in? Like literally, Don Alt's right. And even he, knowing the pattern, was too scared to call it. Now, he shouldn't be too scared to call it because, again, in alts, you have leadership. You know, privacy can trigger DeFi, right? Privacy could also get people looking at decentralized computing, DePIN, and things like that. BlackRock could make an announcement on real-world assets. Perfect time to make an announcement, right? You hoover up everyone's crypto. You knew about the negative news in advance. You take all the crypto, and then you make a positive announcement and start pushing it the other way, which is something else people are not thinking about when it comes to a V bottom. Everyone's like, well, BlackRock got all our crypto. Okay. Or whoever, some big player got all our crypto. Okay. So if I was a big player and I just got everyone's crypto and everyone is reeling, what would I do? Go full ramming speed to the upside. I mean, if you just bought $19 billion in crypto, why not get levered and push it, you know, take $1 billion in lever and start ramming this thing on a weekend when no one's paying attention. And if everyone's panicking about Sunday night and everybody doesn't get the Sunday night, you know, Japan S&P futures disaster, then ram it again. Right? Leaving everybody going, oh my God, now I really don't know what to do. And all the way down, and I couldn't buy it because I was liquidated. Now it's all the way back up. Now I'm too scared to buy it. I mean, they can twist your head. I mean, they did this in 87. They had people so twisted up, they didn't know which way was up, which is why like logging off or touching grass or tax loss selling, you know, somebody said yesterday that, you know, there's nothing you can tell people, and there really isn't. You know, it really isn't. But, you know, no one passed away, right? It's a narrative wrapped around what they call, it's like a mechanical event inside crypto. We went from October to October. Stick with October. Stick with it. Because again, no one's long now. And everyone has to pile back in. And I don't know, like I said, you've seen, and this is my final point, because we got to go to the YouTube member podcast where we're going to be doing picks. And I've got the new roadmap, which is unbelievable. It's mind-boggling. Like, you think it's a V bottom? Well, guess what? I got a model. You want a V bottom? I'll give you a V bottom. We're going to check it out, and we're going to talk altcoins. We're going to talk whatever Toby wants to talk about. So come see the seer. If everybody is out, it could go up only. And you may get dips, but what happens in this market if every altcoin starts acting like Zcash? Right? You got to ask yourself, because that can happen, because that's happened before with Bitcoin. That's the history of Bitcoin. Everyone's like, oh, I wish I bought Bitcoin at $200. Dude, this is the history of Bitcoin. And I saw one guy in the YouTuber influencer group that said, you know, when you had a 40% correction, that wouldn't even make the news back in the day. 40% swinging around. Yeah. Okay. Crypto just moved 40%. Okay, great. What else is new? Now it's like, oh my God, crypto moved 40%. The world is ending. I'm going out. I'm buying a gold bar. I'm going to lie in bed with my gold bar in the fetal position and hope that the world is still there when I wake up from my nap, because I had to take medicine, to snuggle with my gold bar. That's what happened in 87, and that's what happened yesterday in crypto. Like, people are still like, I can't believe this happened. Okay, well, it did happen. Everyone got stopped out. The system got stopped out. So where's all the crypto? Where's all the collateral? And who's got it? And what are they going to do when everyone realizes that this was like possibly a generational low? They're going to go to ramming speed. That's what they're going to do. That's what I would do. Okay. So I think that point has been made. The next thing you need to figure out is, what are you going to buy? What sectors are going to lead? Because not everything rises out of the ash. We know Zcash and Friends did. But if Zcash and Friends take a break, what sector is next? That is coming up in the YouTube member podcast. Definitely appreciate everybody joining us on the YouTube Shorts feed and TikTok. We will see you. I will see you when the next big move happens.